The air was still and cold, and the moon was hidden behind thick, dark clouds, making the Blackwood woods almost completely dark. Emma, a daring girl with bright red hair, told her friends this was the perfect night for a late-night adventure. She and her 3 best friends Liam, Chloe, and Sam were heading to the Blackwood Clearing, a hidden, beautiful spot deep in the woods, famous for strange stories. They carried 2 strong flashlights and a flickering old lantern. "I still think this is crazy, Emma," Chloe whispered, holding Liam's arm tightly as they reached the clearing. Liam, always focused on food even in the dark, was already spreading out a checkered blanket beneath the giant oak tree. "Come on, Chloe. It's awesome. No one else dares to come here at night." Sam, who loved exploring, switched off his flashlight and let the dim, warm light of the lantern take over. "It feels like we stepped into a different world. We're the only 4 people in the world, and everything else is just shadow." For an hour, everything felt like a fun, scary challenge. They huddled close together, their faces lit by the single, flickering lantern in the center of the blanket. They laughed, shared secrets, and ate the sandwiches and chips Emma had packed. The surrounding darkness felt heavy, but the small circle of light kept them feeling safe. It was quiet, maybe too quiet. Even the usual sounds of night insects seemed muffled by the dense trees. Then Emma felt the first change. It was a sudden bone-deep cold that cut right through her thick jacket. She shivered and rubbed her arms quickly. "Is it just me, or did the temperature just drop 20 degrees?" she asked, her breath misting in the cold air. Liam stopped chewing, his eyes scanning the blackness outside the lantern's glow. "Yeah, I noticed that too. And look at the trees. The darkness out there is pressing in." Chloe pointed a trembling finger at the edge of the blanket. The stack of napkins they had weighted down with a bottle of water suddenly lifted into the air, fluttering strangely, and then dropped hard, scattering across the grass. The air was perfectly still. "That wasn't funny, Sam," Chloe accused, her voice barely a whisper. "I swear I didn't move," Sam replied, pulling back and shining his flashlight quickly around the perimeter, finding nothing. The atmosphere turned thick and suffocating, like trying to breathe in mud. The low guttural whispering started again, seeming to come from the trees, the ground, everywhere at once. It wasn't in any human language, but it made their skin crawl, sounding like pure hungry malice. Then the truly terrifying things began. The pond at the edge of the clearing, which they could barely see in the gloom, suddenly erupted. The water began to churn violently, throwing muddy spray into the air, as if something enormous was trying to push its way out from beneath the deep mud. The large oak tree above them groaned, its old, thick branches snapping with a sound like a gunshot. A huge section of branch crashed down onto the edge of the blanket, crushing their food and scattering the lantern, plunging them into total darkness. The 4 friends cried out and scrambled to their feet. Before anyone could find a flashlight or speak, a massive shape poured out of the shadows at the far end of the clearing right near the pond. It was a monster. It was impossibly big and dark, standing maybe 9 feet tall. Its body was hidden in the night, but its skin looked rough and thick like wet dark earth and ancient roots. It had long, razor-sharp claws on its thick hands. But the most horrifying thing was its head. It was white and flat, with no clear eyes or nose, just a massive pulsing red circles that glowed in the darkness like burning coals. The monster let out a shattering roar, a sound like tearing metal, and started moving toward the light they had lost. It wasn't fast, but every step was heavy and determined, shaking the damp ground beneath their feet. "Run now, the path," Emma screamed, grabbing Chloe's hand and pulling her blindly toward the narrow path they had used to enter. They didn't look back, they just ran into the oppressive blackness of the trees. Liam found his flashlight and clicked it on, casting a frantic beam as he and Sam followed. The monsters were echoed behind them, and they could hear the crushing sound of its huge feet breaking branches. They needed to reach the narrow entrance path fast. It felt like they were running in place, swallowed by the darkness. As they neared the path, the monster reached out one huge clawed hand, aiming for Sam. Liam tackled Sam to the side just as the claws dug into the earth where Sam had been running, throwing dirt and stones high into the beam of light. "Keep going. Don't look at it," Liam yelled, pushing Emma and Chloe ahead as they reached the dense line of trees marking the path. The path was narrow and winding, perfect for slowing down the huge monster. They burst onto it, their lungs burning from the effort, their legs aching. The monster couldn't fit easily. They heard frustrated grinding snarls and the sickening sound of thick wood splintering as it desperately tried to force its enormous body through the tight space. They ran for a few more minutes in pure panic, following Liam's bouncing flashlight beam until they saw the familiar chipped stone that marked a main road. When they finally stumbled out of the woods and onto the safe, quiet street, they fell to the ground, gasping. Emma was the first to stop shaking enough to look back at the terrifying wall of darkness. She could see nothing but the black, dense forest, silent once more. The sounds of the monster were gone. They helped each other up, covered in mud, scratches, and sweat, but alive. They had escaped, but the sight of the glowing red eyes in the night would haunt their dreams forever. They looked at each other, their lantern picnic, and all traces of their happy outing were still back in that cursed dark clearing. No one dared to suggest going back. "We never speak of this place or what we saw again," Sam whispered, his voice dry and broken. They all agreed, turning their backs on the dark woods and walking quickly away from the Blackwood Clearing, carrying only the cold, silent horror of the night.